Hi, this is Jessica Hodge with Medical Fitness Pros, and I just got back from Europe, my wife Jessica and I, and we had a great time over in Italy. Kind of wanted to see what the European culture was like. I know that a lot of times we hear about how the Europeans are a lot leaner than the Americans, but at the same time we hear about Italy having pizza and pasta and everything else, and how in the world can they eat all that food and still be lean? It just doesn't really make sense. So the first place we went to was Florence. Florence is kind of in the mid to upper part of Italy, and it was a lot different than what America is. It's a lot different than our culture. What did you notice about Florence?
Yeah, basically because the streets are very narrow. Most people there are either walking or riding bikes. We just would see, in the streets, just hundreds of bikes just lined up, people going shopping, they would park their bike there. Just a different way of life, a lot more activity, a lot more movement. The stores, the shops there are very close to each other, just like, right next to each other. So you go from one place to another, and then of course with all the sightseeing, the churches, the monuments, people just tend to walk, and because everything is so close, it's just a lot more convenient to walk or ride your bike versus, parking, and like I said, that there's not much space. So it's just a lot easier to be able to walk or ride your bike in the city and see things. So.
For sure, there wasn't any fast food. There was a couple of McDonald's we found, and that was really it. So everything was a regular restaurant, so they would either have to go to a regular restaurant or sit down and meal at home. It was neat because they were very active in Europe and in Florence. Now Rome was totally different. Rome was kind of more of what I would say is closer to an American culture, a little bit. And what was your impression of Rome?
Yeah, Rome was a much bigger city. The streets were much wider. Of course, a lot more people, a lot more congestion, traffic, things going on. Still a great place. And again, a lot of walking, not as much bikes, more small vehicles or motorcycles or Vespas. Even the women would ride, the motorcycles, the Vespas. That was a very common thing to see. Just again, a lot of walking, a lot of more uphill, downhill. The streets were still the original streets, the cobblestone, so much harder to get around. They weren't smooth, so people had either tennis shoes or boots. Obviously, it was harder to walk, but it was still great. Just being able to. We did see several times, like at lunch, businessmen walking from, I guess, the place, the restaurant to their work. We would see, that was very common to see men in business who'd just walk in the streets versus, driving, or we saw several riding motorcycles. So their way of life is a lot more active, a lot more movement. So.
And the Rome was one place that we found a gym. We found one gym that was in the middle of Rome. Kind of ran across it by accident. We were looking through Florence and Rome and couldn't find anything. And even the people at the hotel didn't know it existed. The one place we found in Rome, we went into it, and it wasn't really anything that unusual. What was it like for you?
It was small. The lady did show us around. It was 2 floors. Basically, we talked to the lady, and we were just trying to find out what were the goals, the reasons why the Italians would join a gym, since obviously we didn't see very many people overweight. And the lady told us it was, more for stress relief there, just to, go there after a day's work and just relieve stress. Another thing, to socialize, to meet people. And most important of all, for wellness, just to feel good, of course to look great, but to feel good.
The food was different. The way it worked there, they may have like a pastry for breakfast, a little bit more of a, maybe a small pasta meal, not the American size portion like Olive Garden. Just a small plate of food. And then dinner was just for the locals. It was more along the line of meat and vegetables. So not a whole lot of food. It was more of a Mediterranean-based diet. You know, I have no problem with the way the Mediterranean diet is. It's pretty healthy overall. It's you can find a lot of places that promote it. It seems to be pretty balanced as long as you get your vegetables in, and the fats that they take in are healthy fats with the meat with the fish. So I know we learned a lot from our trip, and I wanted to share it with you. And if you have any questions, let us know. This is Jason Hodge and Jessica Hodge at Medical Fitness Pros. If you have any questions, give us a call at 281-500-6055.